for illumined life to be birthed into form. I am the truth. I am the light. Illumined, beloved, divine.
So hello there again, everyone, and welcome to our second Magic of Nature discourse. The conversation about the powers of nature and the elementals and everything that is so internally embedded within the system of the organic ascension that benefits us in a natural way when we remember what its role and mission in our lives here. So last time we talked about more of the connection through the elemental consciousness and how embedded it is within us and how we become this instant communicator when we start to tap into nature very deeply, into the heart of Gaia and the elemental magic. But today I want to talk about more the neurological stimulation and increase of our morphogenetic fields, which is not just an increase in vibration when you tune into nature and the magic of the elemental kingdom, but the actual increase in your intelligence, because we've talked about receiving information very directly, organically, spontaneously, which is a part of magic. It's like a magical occurrence. One day you don't know something, the next day you just do. And what comes in between, right, is your conscious increase of this elemental embeddedness in the magic of life. So our morphogenetic fields, which of course, as you know, our cells in the system all correspond to their own morphogenetic fields, and all of the cells in the body, as you know, they instantly get informed through our brain wiring. So all of the cells would receive the information that's received internally within our blood-brain system, right? So even those, we've mentioned psychedelics and how they affect us as humans, right? There is a barrier called the the blood-brain barrier, which these psychedelics touch. And when you move beyond that threshold, you get that information. You start to tap into these inner resources because certain centers are being triggered. So we've talked about how nature triggers that very much spontaneously. And as this is done, right, our morphogenetic field in general starts to increase. It becomes a part of a wider network of life, right? It's being stimulated by these natural circumstances that we just become a part of. We remember our wiring and that we are part of a much bigger brain, the brain of Gaia, right, than is just our own brain. So we've talked about the physical connection and the elemental structure. Now let's go deeper into how are we being, in a way, neurologically stimulated and how this increases our divine intelligence. So, you know, when we take in certain types of foods in terms of plant sources, of course, we're talking about vegan-based, plant-based sources of living systems, because you all know that if we eat dead food, I think it was Sadhguru who said, then you need to raise it from the dead. And it's really true, right? So you need a lot of energy, which means you're using a lot of life force to cultivate the process of digestion. So when you are informing yourself through remedies, like plant remedies, and foods based on plant life-based diet, you're actually taking in energy, right? You're taking in chi or prana, or life force that is built into the reservoir of those plants. So there are certain foods that we can categorize by many different levels, you know, alkaline foods, acid-based foods, that's how we can like classify them, or foods that contribute to the positive or negative or neutral zones of what we call the chi energy. I think it was 2 springs back, it was 2 years back in the spring, I made this video about certain types of foods, and I referenced the information based on what this guru called Sadhguru, what he shared about this, because it very much resonates with what I've been receiving myself from spirit. Like certain foods that are medicines, they're not meant to be used regular, you know, like in a regular diet. Like onions and garlics and very strong plants, you know, they each exist for a certain type of remedy, for healing, and we're meant to use them like that, but not on a day-to-day basis. It's the same as with every other nervous strong stimulant, right? Like tea and coffee, you know, I take all of this, but only ritualistically, but at very minimum dosages. You know, even when we have our morning tea, we split 1 tea bag for 2, a very tiny amount of water. So it's like a mild version. It's just like meant to be taken in ritualistically at a very minimum dosage. It's how I intuitively receive information. It's how nature teaches me. And the more time you are spending with nature, like deeply embedded within her system, the more your body will be informed, the intelligence of your body will increase. So it will become more intuitive in the ways it's choosing its food, right? So food is a part of that nervous stimulation, because everything you take in your body stimulates your nervous system. So when you go out for a walk, you know, that's why a lot of people say, oh, I was in such a bad mood, I was totally uninspired, then I went for a walk in the forest, and suddenly all these ideas start popping up. Why is this so? Because you're in the presence of a much bigger, wider energetic field, or this morphogenetic field of Gaia as well. It's also very electrically charged all the time and equally magnetic. So there's this fine balance between the electromagnetism in nature. Go back to the previous video when we discussed this. It was right after rainfall. As you've seen, my hair was all like this. It was pure electric. Because you can literally see and feel the presence of particles. They're constantly stimulating you, having these interactions with your auric field, like constantly purifying it. And then if you're in increased way working with the elements, which is a domain of white magic, which is the usage of the elements to serve your process of ascension rather to go against it. And I teach this in all of my life force cultivation and translation and integration, which leads into cosmic embodiment type of teachings that I'm here to provide, as well as other things that I'm doing. So when the intelligence of nature operates in a way that is functional for us instead of dysfunctional, we're using all this elemental realm to sort of like configure ourselves to become more like energetically receptive, but at the same time neurologically stimulated in a way that's neutral. It's like this magical flow that can be optimized through us when we know what we're actually doing. Because even with nature, right, if you go unawareingly, you're not necessarily going to benefit from things, and you can get, even with nature, too stimulated. So it takes a lot of wisdom and observation that builds eventually this higher understanding, right, that becomes greater wisdom, to understand how to work with the elements. Because even if you are a fine master of gathering a lot of elemental forces, but if you don't know yet how to harness them and distribute them and work with divine dispensation laws, then you're just going to pile up a lot of energy, which again will be building up in your system. And because I have myself a lot of energy, and I channel tremendous amount of life force from spirit, and it's just like everywhere. And in this process, I know this myself, I had to learn how to equalize this, the intake of that life force and then the distribution of it, right? I had to constantly channel it in and then channel it out. And if I didn't do that, and still if I don't do that properly, I will have like this nerve pinching pain in my back, right? The scoliotic nerve. And a lot of these issues that are very pressing when the overload of channeling of energy comes. So it's our responsibility in a way to learn this refined and even advanced mastery of energy, because remember, the more we are in the presence of greatness, the greater we have to become. And every time you are in nature, you are in the presence of greatness. So it's very important to become energetically stimulated and neurologically triggered in a responsible way, which is responsive to life, instead of being almost like dead zombies, right? Just walking around not knowing what we're doing. And it's the same thing, right? We can even have tremendous amount of energies always speaking to us, communicating with us, stimulating us, but since we're not paying any attention to it, they're like passing us by all the time. And vice versa. The other extreme example is if it's constantly streaming into you, but you don't know how to dispensate it and to consciously use it for the redistribution and this like particle discharge, which I'm practicing now with the galactic pulsar of life embodiment, which is my next stage in life. and it has so many levels and exercises, and every day it's new adventure. I'm like a Harry Potter training school of mystery. Every day something new I have to work with, and it's like, wow. So it's like building up of that divine intelligence. But let me assure you that the more we are, sometimes, you know, if you just allow yourself to sit in nature and to observe, to listen, sometimes it's enough to just listen to the winds or observe the colors or meditate on a certain specific something. Or it's also what we do to nature that's not always beneficial to it. That's very much egotistical and egocentric, right? And anthropocentric, which is anthropos is the human, right? Is in the center of everything, which is not true. We also need to observe those aspects, you know, not just the positive ones, so that we can see where's this fine line between this balance and an imbalanced states that we can produce through our egoic states of being. So everything in nature magically speaks to us. It speaks to everything in our body. Every cell in the living organism of Gaia speaks to every cell within our body. But are we consciously building the neural pathways for that correspondence system or not, is again up to us. So that's one of the reasons why throughout my years I sort of like laid the foundation for this life force mastery work, and eventually everyone on the path of physical ascension through lumen union or vice versa will have to begin with that. This is not a path of just being informed. This is a path of conscious working with the energetics and our nervous system, because as the nervous system is being upgraded, we will have to upgrade ourselves. We'll have to upgrade the physical temples, because they will need to hold this, what's being upgraded, the new tree of life, the new wiring system, the blood, the nervous system, both two trees of life. If you don't know anything about this, I have a Divine Trinity for Organic Ascension, which is a 3 videos plus 1 compilation where all of this is discussed, all the understanding that is here for the physical ascension. And basically our bodies, which we have not really been understanding in the last few centuries even. We've just been moving very much away from the body, and everything else had our interest but the body. And now we're slowly moving back to the body and gradually increasing our awareness of everything that is about embodiment. And when we talk about things like energetic fields, morphogenetic fields, neural pathways, neural networks being built, we have to be aware that being in nature is a direct link to that being increased. So if people take implant medicine, they're literally taking nature in their bodies, right? They're taking in the certain components of nature, and if that is a psychedelic in nature, that will react with that part of them which is psychic in nature, because it has that correspondence. But it's not just about that. So there's different aspects of nature that, just like in your body, different parts of you have a different correspondence system and different purposes, right, that are being served through these mechanisms and organisms of life. It's very much the same in nature. And by increasing our awareness of how nature functions, for us it's very natural to understand how we fit into this whole picture, bigger picture of life. And we will then build technologies in our advanced states of evolution that will consider nature and how she works, so that our nervous system, the technology will reflect our own nervous system. So it's like a technology / neurology in a way. I don't know if that's how it's pronounced, but either way, it is what it is. And this is the path of organic ascension that we should be taking. So organic ascension doesn't mean we need to retreat in nature and live again like cavemen and women. It's about everything that we built outside of ourselves, mirroring that divine technology of nature. And so a lot of people receiving information just through meditation or taking psychedelics, or people just increasing their own embodiment levels through lumen union by opening the life force pathways, which are naturally opening up neural channels within your body, first corresponding with the basic chakric vortices, and then expanding and extending outwardly to the entire network that your body is. And it's just one of the fields that you exist within, and it's just one compound, yet a very important one, because the mission is being carried out through our bodies, so they're super important. There's also components of understanding what makes us be more optimized and refreshed and rested, how we sleep, what helps us to have better sleep, how much sleep we're actually supposed to have. And I think that's also one of the, I watched this many years ago, but also this yogi teaching or a guru teaching about what you do before going to sleep, just being aware of your body, your breathing, and that you're actually, simultaneously being aware of your body, but that you're not just your body. And that having that awareness just in those last few moments before falling asleep, and even when you wake up, having that awareness again, that we're not just acting out so much in this robotic, just like this, reactive way, but we're building more responsive connections to life. And every day, like noticing progress. When I started this training for the Galactic Pulsar, they already told me, my mission team, my light family told me, isn't it wonderful, they said, how big of a mission this is, that it required 36 years just for its preparation. Imagine that, 36 years just for the preparation, and it hasn't even begun yet. So they told me I was just requiring a liquid light quotient and raising it up until my body was at a certain level of holding that, for me being able to hold that and starting this higher training, which I started up in the late August. Again, as always, the resonance of the anniversary of the harmonic convergence always brings newity or novelty to my life, newness. And so it's just amazing how this actually corresponded with this training path that opened up for me. And now every day is a new adventure. And as you see, I don't make as many videos as I used to, because getting myself informed and raising up my liquid light quotient with that life force translation and everything that will building in me and my network, which was a combination of my direct light being and my light family and my horizontal alignment with the natural world and the organic ascension pathway. And now that locked in and sort of reached its synthesis, and now a new level is there just before me. And like I said, every day is a new adventure, and it was like a 360-degree turnover from one state of how I was into how I am now. It's just now everything I've been sort of gathering is being used. Like before, I was like speeding up so fast because my mission had this requirement. I needed to gain this very fast. Because 36 years in the physical world is considered a lot in relation to how much at this point in our human evolution the human body can, be alive and sustain and support itself in the physical realm. And so this is considered quite a lot. So I had to hurry up to get to a certain level. So I didn't always have the time to use what was being gained, And now finally this is just coming back. It's like all this circle that I've completed now sort of like reverberates back inwardly. So like its toroidal field was being built, and this giant vortex that I became, and now I'm feeding into it and daily increasing its potency through showing up and getting these initiatives from spirit, and every day a new initiation, a new exercise, and I'm just in awe. So I'm just telling you that the necessity for the vertical and horizontal was always there, and I've always talked about this on this path, and have so many videos. For those who are new, you can start wherever you want, because there's going to be people joining probably if they're in this path. If they find this, it's probably sort of triggering something for them, and it's where they're finding themselves to be at their point in their own evolution, and it's great. And you can just start wherever you want. There is no sense of linearity here. It's just, a giant spiral, and it is what it is. So this is something that Spirit wanted me to talk about today as the second important component of the nature's magic and how it serves us and how we are being served in return in that way. And we serve the planetary consciousness and its own ascension in a similar way. So again, it's an innate connection. It's all super related, and this divine connectivity is in all life. So I hope you enjoyed this topic. Let me know. And as always, with so much love, wisdom, and power, I have at the end of this week, it's finally my solar return. Yay! So I'm finally turning up that cycle, which they told me it's not about the amount of age gathered, but the amount of light quotient gathered, which now reached its pinnacle for me. I've already had the predecessing shifts when I started the Galactic Pulsar training. And it's like this odd feeling I can't explain. It's like I'm going to school, and I'm not literally physically going to school, but it felt very serious. It went like from this resting kind of summer into wow, what is this? Totally different energetic field. And there I was back in the school, literally seeing myself behind the bench, not literally, but it's just the energy changed completely, and Spirit said we had work to do. So now we are where we are. and new secrets of life are being revealed through me, and none of this would even be possible if I didn't do the prerequisite or the pre-requirements, right, that were necessary for this work, because the light quotient needed to be raised and built within my physical template or temple, so that I can now live this mission truly. And it's just an amazing path, and I will share much more in my Patreon videos. My page is called Illumined Ascension, and I'm in this last course. I've already informed you there will be this Cosmic Christ and Light Being Integration course that I want to finish up until this cycle is complete. It sort of corresponds with that, and then I will no longer be doing courses in that amount of informative sharing. I will do more transmissions and things of a higher nature, so that's where I'm being guided now. That's my impulsing. And again, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for joining us, the team, me, everyone, all of us. And there's a beautiful group of those of us who are there on Patreon. There's a lovely support network there. And whenever, wherever, if ever, I will see you. Mwah, big hugs. Take care. Bye.